Hello dear UPSC aspirants, today is 9th April and I am ready with the must read articles for 9th April. Before I start video, I want to remind you guys that this video is intentionally made short so that you don't waste a lot of time. UPSC students have a lot to study and a lot to do. Even a full-time aspirant doesn't have sufficient time. So the purpose of this video is to reduce the newspaper scanning time and not to give you too little or too much of info, right? The idea of good UPSC preparation is to read just correct, not too much in detail that takes 1.5 hours of yours, and not too less that you can't even use in your answers, right? So that's why I want to help you to finish the newspaper in around 20 minutes. So let's start with 9th April, and I'm Akriti Kanchi. Let's start with 9th April newspaper, right? So a great historic verdict brought by Supreme Court. Supreme Court pulls up Tamil Nadu, although Tamil Nadu governor has been highlighted, but it has happened throughout the past several times, okay? The Supreme Court pulls up Tamil Nadu governor, sets deadline to clear bills, okay? This comes under GS paper 2, Indian Constitution, important provisions, features, okay? Here, the problem was Article 200 that comes in part 6, which is about the states, okay, the rules and regulations of the states. Article 200 is about the assent to bills given by the governor in the state legislative assemblies and states, okay. So what has happened in past that a lot of governors have taken too much of time and sat on the bills, so that has reduced the efficiency of the elected government of the state. So for that, Supreme Court has taken a very tough stand on this issue. So what they have set a time frame now. First time the Supreme Court has done something like this. They have set a clear time frame. Governor has to decide and give assent to bill in these situations, and from 1 to 3 months they have decided, okay. So so the Supreme Court slammed Tamil Nadu Governor R.N. Ravi's conduct as unconstitutional, criticizing his prolonged inaction on 10 key bills, okay. So that's why they have fixed time limits of 1 to 3 months for governors to take actions, okay. The court said that governor must be a friend, guide and philosopher to the state, not a hindrance. This can be your intro of your answer about the governor or even the conclusion of the answer. A governor is envisaged as sagacious counselor. This can be used under courts as courts of Supreme Court about the governor's role. So what is the time frame under Article 200? The Supreme Court has set the time frame for governors that as soon as possible, that is written in Article 200, means some sense of expediency. It means some sense of speed is required here. As soon as possible is written in the article. You should check in the PM Bakshi Bear or any other Bear Acts that you have. Read the Article 200 as it is, okay. So what they have decided, Supreme Court, governor has a maximum of 1 month to withhold assent on the aid and advice of the state cabinet. A maximum of 3 months is given to return the bill with a message specifying reasons if the governor withholds assent contrary to the cabinet's advice, and the governor has 3 months to reserve a bill for the president's consideration against the advice of cabinet, okay. So normally 1 month to withhold, 3 months for special message and for president's reconsideration, and the governor must grant assent to a bill repassed by the state legislature under Article 200 within a maximum of 1 month. So after it is repassed, after the governor's suggestion has been taken, it has been repassed, then governor has 1 month to pass, okay. So Article 200 gives normally 3 choices to governor, which is mentioned in the Constitution. The article gives a governor 3 choices: to assent, to withhold assent, or reserve the bills for consideration by president. So first they can give assent, second they can withhold assent, that is not give assent, third is reserving it for the president of India, right? A governor cannot indefinitely delay exercise. Either of these 3 choices has to be taken, right? It cannot indefinitely delay, and he is under a constitutional obligation to opt for one of the 3 choices. Very important article, very important, okay. The question may come in mains or even about the article in prelims. Let's move to the next article. So this has happened. New Aadhaar app with facial authentication testing phase is going on. That's why I have not mention the topic, but this comes under GS paper 2, governors interventions and policies for development in various areas. So generally what happens, it takes sometimes without facial recognition, some things takes a lot of time and there are errors. Okay, so a new Aadhaar app will be put out by Unique Identification Authority of India. It also has a facial recognition feature to securely share Aadhaar data with entities without the need to share the hard copy. The facial recognition tools for verifying Aadhaar holders' identity for use cases like verification during a know your customer process has been existing for few months. Okay, so these are something which is a process is ongoing. You should know about it. These comes in prelim statement also. Okay, another article, RGI, Registrar General of India, flags delay by hospitals in reporting births and deaths. Births and death. This comes under GS paper 2, functioning of the department and ministries of the government. Okay, so here Registrar General of India has said that it has cautioned private and government hospital that they must report incident of birth and death within 21 days. Okay, so RJ, what is Registrar General of India? It comes under the Union Home Ministries Authority. Okay, you should know this. Again, this can come in prelims that Registrar General of India works under Ministry of Home Affairs. As per section 23 clause 2 of the Registration of Birth and Death Act, negligence by the registrar in registering any birth or death is punishable with a fine. So registration of birth and death is a very important executive work done under this RBD Act. The RBD Act, that is Registration of Birth and Death Act 1969, was amended in 2023, that mandates the registration of all births and deaths on the center's portal. You should know this about our country. Okay, let's move to the next article. We'll directly go to the editorial. We have been talking about BIMSTEC since last few days, and another editorial on it, a regional revival. This comes under GS paper 2, regional cooperation, regional groupings involving India and affecting India's interest. Okay, so BIMSTEC was formed in 1997. This summit, which was held in Bangkok, was the 6th summit. Okay, and 5th summit was virtual during the COVID times. Okay, this is the 6th summit. Brought the leaders of 7 countries. Which are the 7 countries? I'll repeat: India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, then there is Bhutan, and then there is Nepal. Okay, so these are the 7 countries. Am I missing anything? No. Yeah. Sorry, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Thailand, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. Okay, these are the 7 countries. Okay, so it was done in Bangkok, the 6th meeting. Okay, and this is considered, BIMSTEC is considered as a bridge between the SAARC nations, which is not functioning right now, and ASEAN nation of Southeast Asia. That is South Asia and Southeast Asia. It is considered a bridge between both. Okay, so the grouping has languished due to lack of purpose, due to political underpinnings. Post 2014, SAARC has made little movement. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal corridor, which was called BBIN, also got a pause because Bhutanese parliament rejected the motor vehicle agreement. Okay, so but this summit has proved useful. Lot of agreements were passed. BIMSTEC Chamber of Commerce and Work on the India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway. Okay, these were said that will connect India's northeast region, built as BIMSTEC hub, all the way to Pacific Ocean. Okay, the BIMSTEC region is prone to natural disasters, as right now a very unfortunate earthquake has taken place in Myanmar and Thailand. Lot of deaths has happened, so it is prone to natural disasters, and building a joint mechanism for disaster management is extremely crucial because it comes under the very sensitive tectonic plates boundary. Okay, and they are also negotiating FTA and custom agreements. Okay, under Vision 2030. Next article, this article is very important. It's talking about all the developments, all the administrative efficiencies and steps that Ministry of Home Affairs has taken in last 5 to 8 years. Okay, so the gradual transformation of Home Ministry, this comes under GS paper 3. It's because Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for internal security of the country. So internal security, MHA, and various security forces and their agencies. It can also come under GS paper 2, functioning of ministries and departments. Okay, so when Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks of reform, perform, and transform, he talks about structural reforms. So, and not just reactive policies, not just temporary fixes, but permanent improvement of structures. Okay. So earlier, before, Ministry of Home Affairs was looked at as crisis ministry. So whenever any issues happen, like any riots happen, any insurgencies happen, then they went and worked there, right? You know, but it's so earlier its interventions were reactive, tackling unrest rather than preventing it. So idea is to prevent anything which can come rather than when something happened and then you're going to work. So preventive way is what has, you know, is the recent change, right? So it's not just crisis ministry. The MHA has fundamentally transformed itself, moving from crisis response of earlier style to a structured security architecture. Use these key terms in your answers. Okay, it has strengthened counter-terror laws, modernized agencies, adopting technology and improving intelligence coordination, legislative overhauls to institutional restructuring. MHA is the backbone of India's internal security and federal governance. Okay, so whatever security issue, whatever direction that union gives to anyone, who will enforce all that? Right, that is Ministry of Home Affairs. Constitution has given certain powers to center, which will be implemented by Ministry of Home Affairs under Article 355, 256 and 356. Article 355 and 356 comes under Part 18, emergency provisions, under which if center is giving direction to states and it is supposed to follow the constitution way of working, then union has the right to direct them to do. And that's why union also has the right to implement President's rule under Article 356, okay, which has been done in Manipur recently. Article 256 comes under Part 11, that is relation between center and states. It is clearly mentioned that the state should try to follow and implement the parliament's laws, and if they are not doing, union has the right to direct it. Right, so how will it direct it? MHA is the medium to direct it. Okay, so you should read these articles from your Bare Act as it is. Okay, so these are some things. So in 1980s there was a lot of terrorism and insurgency, Punjab's militancy, Kashmir terrorism, Maoist violence, which led to loss of resources drain in those areas of MHA. So many states were also slow to modernize their police forces, increasing their reliance on the states. Police forces were not that effective. So that's why they were relying on the Central Armed Police Forces, CAPF, the several CAPF, Assam Rifles, Border Security Forces, Central Industrial Security Forces, Central Reserve Police Force, Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force, ITBP, Sashastra Seema Bal, SSB, reliance on the Rapid Action Force, RAF of the CRPF for right control. These are some specific, things to work. And so that's why MHA has done the administrative restructuring, and that's why they have removed the Northeast Affairs and Department of Justice from MHA and has included Disaster Management and Narcotics Control Bureau under its administration. So Kashmir, Northeast and Central India, Naxal areas have taken a lot of resources of MHA, but now they are working on critical areas like police modernization, agency coordination, narcotics control, technology adoption, disaster management and federal governance now are receiving attention. Okay, several acts like TADA, Terrorist and Disruptive Activities Act was enacted after Punjab insurgency, POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act after the 2001 Parliament attack, National Investigation Agency was after 26/11 Mumbai attack. So these were all reactive in nature. Okay, so now since 2019, over 27 legislative reforms have established a strong security jurisprudence, which has led to law enforcement and national stability that we can see in Kashmir's integration and criminal justice system of our country, right? It has strengthened the terror jurisprudence, amending NIA Act and unlawful activities. Okay, so it is also revamping the multi-agency center. Criminal justice system reforms has been done by 3 new criminal cases, which was done in December 2023. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. Okay, these are enacted. Also, there has been establishment of National Forensics Science University, which is very important. So because forensic work and enforcement work should be separated so that they are done properly. Okay, so National Forensic Science University and full implementation of Crime and Criminal Tracking Network and System, CCTNS. Mention it in your answers, okay, what steps have been taken to CCTNS, National Forensic Sciences University. So crime and criminal tracking network and systems have integrated 17,000 police stations, okay, courts, jails and forensic laboratories. So now states are encouraged to separate investigation from forensics, okay. So MHA budget in 2025 is around 2.33 lakh crore, which is so that shows government's focus on internal security and modernization, okay, and expenditure on central paramilitary forces has also risen. So government is doing really good here. There has been an evolution from crisis response body to a structured and proactive institution, okay. You should use this keyword, this points in your answers. Let's move to the next article. Now this article is also about enforcement of the laws which is poor in our country. So strengthening enforcement of judicial orders, here they are talking. So this comes under GS paper 2, important aspects of governance, transparency and accountability. So several orders are brought by Supreme Court. There are certain examples, but it has not been enforced in the way. So when the any enforcement, any orders are coming, there should be simultaneous work on how to enforce them also. That's what the writer is trying to talk. So judicial orders, this will come under GS paper 2, governance. The judicial orders that incorporate strategies to overcome enforcement challenges has the potential to optimize resource utilization and foster public satisfaction. If government is giving orders, Supreme Court is giving order, it is not being implemented. So the trust of public in Supreme Court's verdict will not be that strong, right? So inspiration can be taken from Kathmandu in Nepal, where strict enforcement of noise control measures combined with public awareness campaigns had led to remarkable change, okay. So proactive enforcement, public education, cooperation can drive change. So you should mention all of this: proactive enforcement, public education, cooperation, okay. So weak enforcement of judicial decisions are undermining both governance and public trust in judiciary, right? So this is a famous case of 2017, state of Tamil Nadu versus K. Balu case, which is famously known as liquor ban case. In this, Supreme Court aimed to curb road accidents caused by drink driving and prohibited liquor sales within 500 meters of the highway. So within 500 meters of the highway, there shouldn't be any liquor sales, okay. But that was also, this led to, bypassing the laws that included reclassification of urban roads, okay, and there was not much enforcement that should have been done. This is a famous case, liquor ban case, which generally people write in examples of judiciary, overreach or judiciary's legislation kind of thing, right? So section 38 of the Code of Civil Procedure in India gives the power to execute a decree to both the court that passed it and the court to which it is sent for execution, okay. So all this order 38, order 21, all this should be kept in mind. Again, in Common Cause versus Union of India, again a very important case like that Tamil Nadu case versus K. Balu, a similar Common Cause versus Union of India. In this, Supreme Court legalized passive euthanasia, and the success of this judgment stemmed from its clarity. So how was passive euthanasia supposed to be done? Specific guidelines for healthcare institution, stringent monitoring mechanisms, systemic oversight ensured that the decision translated into action. But all these nuances of orders, who will take care? The enforcement is required, right? So enforcement required actionable directives, okay. So positive measures like transparency should be there, structured system should be there of accountability, judiciary while maintaining transparency. A system should be there where an officer could be appointed in every government department, an agency to review and remedy the situation. That officer should be doing regular audits and reporting, okay. These kind of issue can come, and you can mention some example of Kathmandu, these Supreme Court cases, this Tamil Nadu versus K. Balu, Common Cause versus Union of India, and the idea of an officer in the system to do this job specially. Let's move to the next article. Very important article from urbanization point of view. Why is active mobility necessary in India? We all see movies where in Netherlands people are cycling and actually going for work. Cycling not for entertainment or recreational purpose. Cycling actually for moving for work from here to there is what is active mobility. This comes under GS paper 1. Urbanization, their problems and their remedies. It is clearly said active modes of transport include walking, cycling, skateboarding and other non-motorized modes that are used for travel and not recreational activities, okay. That is the definition of active modes of transport which is mentioned here, right? Active modes which does not use motorized motorized form of mobility. And why do we need this? Because with a lot of cars and with a lot of vehicles on the road, there is increasing traffic congestion, pollution, health concerns, and rising pedestrian deaths are also there. Right, that's why we are talking about it. And on a lot of policies, national transit oriented development policy and smart cities mission. And in Paris Agreement, we have something called sustainable transport. And that's why also active mobility is required, sustainable transport. Bengaluru's first bicycle mayor, Satya Sankaram, has been a key advocate, and he contributed to the drafting of Karnataka Active Mobility Bill 2022. Okay, Karnataka recorded the highest number of pedestrian deaths, and that's why the bill aims to promote urban ability through the protection of the rights. So pedestrian will not walk, right, if there are so many deaths happening for pedestrian. So that's why it is required, a legal structure is required protecting the active mobility, equal access of public space for all motorized and non-motorized people. Okay, so Delhi is also expanding cycling tracks and pedestrian friendly streets. Under Delhi EV policy, Pune also has a comprehensive bicycle plan. Chennai is redesigning smart cities mission to improve pedestrian safety. Kochi also has a public bicycle sharing. Okay, so World Health Organization has said that World Health, WHO has said that active mobility has different benefits like economic benefits, social benefits, environmental benefits, health benefits. Economic benefits are like reduced household expenditure on fuel and transportation and lower healthcare costs due to enhanced public health. Okay, so with lower fuel cost, each household can save their money. It will boost local business. There will be energy security also, as we are focusing on reducing carbon emissions. And there is also, because of active mobility, the chronic diseases also reduces, like cardiovascular diseases and all, right? So this will reduce the risk of chronic diseases. But what are the issues? What are the issues that we are facing here? First is urban infrastructure. There is lack of adequate pedestrian and cyclist friendly infrastructure. So if you walk around in Delhi, there's not enough for you, place to walk for pedestrians. The cars will constantly honk and you'll have to move aside, right? So these are the issues. Other barrier is available of low cost alternative modes of motorized transport. Why won't you use a cheaper car or a cheaper bike that will make your movement easy, right? So low cost alternative mode is there. Then we have extreme weather condition. Either it is too cold or either it is too hot. Both can make you sick, and that's why also people, try not to move long distances, right? The other is social perception. These are cars and all are seen as a status symbol. Although somebody who is rich is driving, some bicycle, that's not what we generally expect. Okay, Society of Indian Mobile Manufacturers say over 12,000 cars are sold every day in India. So certain great examples here are Netherlands is a global leader in promoting active mobility through cycling. It has 35,000 kilometers of dedicated cycling lanes. It has European Union's Mobility and Transport Department prioritizing promoting walking and cycling, and Germany's Berlin Mobility Act. Okay, so Netherlands, European Union, and Germany's Berlin. That is what is required. Let's move to the next article. So after this examples of Netherlands, European Union, Germany, we'll move to the next article, right? And there is an article on the science page. So here also one article is mentioned about this governor's case. State had argued that a governor was part of the state legislature under Article 168 and could not act in a way contrary to the wishes of the elected representatives of the people. Go and read Article 168. It spells out that for every state there shall be a legislature. Okay, this legislature consists of governor and two houses to be known respectively as Legislative Council and Legislative Assembly. Let's move to the next article. So, Finance Minister is saying that bilateral arrangements taking over multilateralism. So, responding to increasing fragmented and uncertain world, countries are prioritizing bilateral arrangements. This comes under GS paper 2, international relations. Okay, next article. Genome study. 180 million genetic variants found in 10,000 individuals. This comes under GS paper 3, achievements of Indians in science and technology. Okay, so the genome sequencing data are deposited in the Indian Biological Data Center housed in the Regional Center for Biotechnology in Faridabad, Haryana. So you should know where are these being deposited. The genome, the genomes of Tibeto-Burman tribe, right, which is there in the northeast, Indo-European tribe, which is in the northern India, Dravidian tribe, which is in southern India, Austroasiatic tribe, which is there in Andaman and all. These all are taken the genomes of all of these, genetics are taken. Genomes are taken from all of these tribes, and these variants are associated with certain diseases and all, right? So this will lead to personalized medicine. It will lead to predict the genetic basis of drug responses and kickstart precision medicine in India. Precise, okay. Another article, SkyMed forecast normal monsoon La Nina week. This comes under GS paper 1 Indian geography monsoon. So they have predicted that this year monsoons will be normal. La Nina will not be there. What is La Nina? La Nina is a half degree more cooling of central equatorial Pacific, and El Nino is half degree heating in the same region. So La Nina increases the intensity of monsoon, and El Nino leads to weaker monsoon. El Nino is warming of the central equatorial Pacific, so weaker monsoon. La Nina is 0.5 degree cooling, so stronger monsoon. Let's move to the next article. And in the last article in the science page, scientists demonstrate clear quantum advantage using simple game. This comes under GS paper 3, awareness in the field of computers, IT. So Google used random circuit sampling for its Sycamore processor. So Sycamore processor is of Google, which is trying to do quantum computing. And Chinese researchers use the Gaussian boson sampling problem for the Zhuang computer. You should know who and what is being done in quantum computing. A quantum computer will leverage entanglement to create correlation that classical physics can't reproduce. So quantum supremacy will only be attained when classical computers cannot perform with that much of efficiency, right? So if there are 1 million meeting points, the number of steps required for classical computers will be 1 million, because the quantum computer can do same task in 1,000 steps, okay? So using lasers, researchers entangle two trapped strontium atoms. When two particles are entangled, they are correlated in a way that classical physics cannot explain. Okay, there measuring one particle will instantaneously affect the other. That's why quantum computing is required. Last article of the day, the making of a fruit. So this is important from basic science and technology, prelims fact, okay. Sometimes these things are asked. Since it is mentioned in newspaper, we should know how do fruits ripen. फ्रूट्स कैसे पकते हैं, है ना, मीठे कैसे होते हैं. तो दैट्स कॉल्ड प्रोसेस ऑफ सेनेसेंस और एजिंग इन प्लांट्स. इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ अ हार्मोन कॉल्ड इथाइलिन. Okay, you should be sure about it. It will surely help you in prelims exam of some some civil services exams. And color changes occur due to carotenoids or anthocyanins. Okay, in banana and apples the enzyme phosphorylase is there, and in mangoes amylase is there. Ethyl 2-methyl butyrate in apples are there, and there is also acidity in fruits. Which acid is there in which fruits? So malic acid is there in apples, apricots, bananas, cherries and plums. Okay, malic acid, which is not too, it is not too acidic. Okay, malic acid is not too acidic. It is what shall I say, it is little milder. So it is found in apple, apricots, banana, cherries and plums. Citric acid, which is little more acidic, that you can find in grapes. It is found in gooseberry, that is your amla, tomatoes and peaches. Okay, and malic acid and tartaric acid both are found in grapes. Okay, so that's it for 9th April. Thank you.